welcome back. So in this week's video, we're going to take a look at some sterling silver that I bought online. So I have 4 lots to show you. I'll tell you how many items I got, whether they were silver or not, how much they cost, and also I'm going to throw in some tips on how to identify sterling silver when you're looking online. So let's get stuck in. So this is my first lot. Everything that I purchased came from Vinted, so I made an offer to each of the sellers for the items, and a couple of them negotiated and a couple just accepted straight away, which is great. So this one in total came to £15.69. There are 3 sterling silver items in here, and that means that they are £5.23 each. And this particular lot I picked because of the earrings that are inside. So I'll show you those first. So these remind me very much of the 90s. I used to have some of these, but in like a teardrop shape. So these ones are little sterling silver balls, and then they've got like cutout detail, like little scrolls and swirls. Absolutely love those. In the photograph, these looked a lot smaller than they are. They're actually quite weighty. They've got a nice weight to them. So one of the things that I keep an eye out for when I'm looking for sterling silver is a little bit of tarnish. So sterling silver, when jewellery's first made, it's obviously got like a really high polish and really high shine. And then when people kind of wear it and use it over time, it develops like a dark tarnish that can be anything from like a really dull grey all the way through to black. So these had a lovely, lovely tarnish on them. And I could see that on the photographs. What I would recommend you do is, this is something I do on Vinted and eBay, is I zoom in on the photographs so I can get more of a detailed look. Plus, I can also look for any marks that there might be on there. So for sterling silver, you're looking for things like marks of purity. So 925 is 92.5% sterling silver, and then the other percentage will be some kind of alloy or a mix of alloys. 999 is fine silver, so 99% silver. There are other different numbers that you might see, and they'll relate to silver that's come from abroad, so France and Spain and Egypt and places like that. So if you do see marks on there, look them up if you can and try and identify them. If you see any kind of string of hallmarks at all, that's usually a really good sign that it is sterling silver or something precious. So what else did we get in this lot? Saw this necklace. If you're a regular watcher, you'll know that I love gemstones and anything with natural stones and natural materials. Lizzie, you'll probably like this one. So this is quartz, a nice, beautiful, natural, clear quartz, potentially dyed. I'm not quite sure whether that colour is natural or if it's been dyed. Then we've got some garnets and we've got some real pearls as well. And at first I wasn't sure if this was sterling silver. It looked a little bit too bright. However, one place to look when you're looking for sterling silver is on the clasp. So this has a little spring ring. I'll try and put a close-up up here. But on the inside, the actual part that moves, sometimes that bit is stamped, or the body of the spring ring will be stamped with 925, and that's how you can tell that it's silver. Now, one of the things to be really wary of, and I see this a lot on Vinted, are items that the sellers are claiming vintage, or they're claiming they're silver when they're not. And unfortunately, it can be really easy to be fooled. So you'll notice that on some necklaces and bracelets, they'll have this little extension chain with a little tag attached to the bottom, a little silver tag, or it might be attached up here between the clasp and the chain. It might be a little flat section, and on there it will have 925. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's silver. Some really cheap imported pieces, particularly from China, so things that you might be able to buy on Temu or AliExpress, those kind of websites, sites that I never go near, they'll produce items with these little tags saying that they're silver when actually they're not. Sometimes they're silver plated if you're lucky, but it'll be a very, very low quality plating, so very thin plating that will wear straight away, and there'll be either copper or brass underneath the plating, and some of them are just not silver at all. So that is one way that they do catch people out, and for me, I stay away from those types of items. If they're a very, very high polished item, so extremely shiny, very, very silvery, kind of bright colour, the light is bouncing off them, that's one way that they try and make things look like real silver when they're not. And like I say, the little hand tags, the little sections, when it comes to earrings, they tend to stamp on the ear wire itself. They'll put 925. Now, in some cases, that will mean that the ear wires are still in silver, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the body of the earring has any silver content. High quality sterling silver jewellery will have the stamp on the ear wire, but also on this section as well, somewhere, usually on the back or on the side, it will be stamped. So you need to be very, very careful when looking at things, because it might be that you see the little stamp and instantly think, you know, oh, all of that is sterling silver, when it's not. So that's a couple of things to look out for. And then the last item in that box are these absolutely stunning, and I am tempted to keep these because I love anything kind of Native American looking, Navajo style, that kind of thing. I have quite a few pieces in my own collection. Just trying to put these in my fingers so that you can see them a bit better. And these are sterling silver. There we go. So they're a lovely oval shape with onyx gemstone in the centre. And they're a lot bigger than I thought they were going to be. And these ones, just right at the bottom here, you'll just be able to see the stamp. So these are stamped 925, and they've also got a bit of patina on as well, which I could see on the photographs, so I knew they were going to be sterling silver. So that is the first box of goodies. So not bad. So each of those items, I average out the price across the items, and that factors in the postage and the protection fee that you have to pay on Vinted. And when I looked up the earrings, they can go for anything between 18 and 25 just for that one pair. So £5.23 per item is not bad. Not bad at all. My second lot, which came in this little box, I've been really lucky. Everybody has packaged everything really well, which is awesome. So this is a box of 6 items, and that came to £11.49, which is £1.91 per item. Not everything in here is silver, but there are some silver items. And one of the items I kind of wondered, and I took a risk. And that sometimes is something that you have to do when you're purchasing things online. You have to take a risk, and sometimes people don't realise that things are silver, and you might be able to grab yourself a bargain. Now, this is the item that I wasn't sure about. So it's definitely vintage. It's a nice link bracelet. These have got like textured surface on, like a hatched surface. And I quite like that it looks quite dark. So it looks like a dark tarnish of silver. However, when I got my little jeweller's loop out, if you haven't got one of these and you are in the business of buying jewellery either for yourself, to gift or to sell, a jeweller's loop is an absolute must. And these are only a couple of quid on like eBay or Amazon, so pick one of these up if you can. So I had a look, and I could actually see where some of this had worn away, and underneath the copper was showing through, so you'll see like a red, orangey red tinge underneath, and that's how you know that it's plated. So this one is a silver plated item, and I'm actually going to leave that quite dark because I quite like the tarnish on it. I think it adds to the aged look of the item. So the rest of the things in here are earrings, and these are very tarnished, and I could see that in the photograph. So these ones, they're quite bent as well. So if you can see, that ear wire there is bent downwards. So I'll have to get my jewellery pliers and do a bit of work. But these have got a lovely Celtic design. I'm very attracted to the kind of Scottish and Celtic patterns. And these ones are stamped 925 on the back, which is awesome. So that's one pair. I have a pair in here that are not sterling silver, and I knew that when I purchased them. So these are brass, but again, I quite like the Celtic pattern on those. So they're going to go to the Witches' Fair with me. Quite a few of these pieces will come to the Witches' Fair actually. Anything that's kind of gothic and witchy will come with me. Now these are in the Rennie Mackintosh style, and you'll have seen I've bought quite a few pieces like that. So these are very small studs in kind of like a drop shape, and then they've got the pattern on the inside, and again very tarnished. However, they are stamped on the inside, and these ones are Kit Heath as well. So they've got the KH initials stamped on the inside. Very, very tiny, so you definitely need your jeweller's loop to have a look at those. Then I liked these because they were a leaf shape. So these ones have got little rhinestones down the centre, and then these are made from sterling silver as well. These don't have any markings on, so I took a risk on these. However, I have tested them with my acid kit, and these are sterling silver, which is fab. And then these last ones were very tarnished as well, and I didn't know if they were actually tarnished or if the plating had worn off, if it chipped off. There we go. Quite hard to see, but I'll pop a photograph up here, a close-up. And these do have 925 on, and then they have some initials on there as well, which is very difficult to see. I think I might be able to see it better once I've polished them up. If I just have a quick look. AM, it looks like. So they're kind of like an O-shaped drop earring on little posts. So like I said, that entire lot only came to £11.49. So to say there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of those items of sterling silver, which is awesome. So even if I was to sell each of these pair of earrings for, you know, £10 a pair, I'm still making a huge profit, which is fantastic. I just had to take a little bit of a risk on a couple of those items, but the whole lot together was so cheap that it was worth it. Right, on to lot number 3. Still got a croaky voice from the cold that we had. Feeling much better though. So this lot was advertised as some of the items being silver and some of the items not. So again, it was a little bit of a risk. I bundled these together and made an offer, and the lady kindly accepted. So this lot has 6 items in total, and it came to £16.22. So that's including postage and including the protection fee on Vinted. I collect all my parcels from the local post office because they have one of those lockers down the side of the building, and it's literally a 2-second walk from my house. So that saves me a little bit of money on things being posted to the house. I think with InPost, it's like an extra 50p to have it delivered to the house, which if I wasn't well, that's a good option, is to have it posted home. But have it sent to the lockers means I get to go out and get a bit of fresh air. So let's get stuck in. I divided that amount by 6, so each of these items came to £2.70. So the first thing that caught my eye was this humongous slab of glass. So it's kind of, that's its original state on the back, and then on the front you can see the high shine. And the section that is silver is this here, so the bail at the top that you would thread onto your necklace. And I could tell because it had a bit of tarnish on it, and also just on the bottom, right on the bottom of that tip there is a little stamp, a little 925. And this is a handmade piece, so it is likely to be sterling silver rather than a fake. So that was my first item. Now this isn't sterling silver, but it's beautiful and it's vintage, so I couldn't resist. And when making a bundle up, it's always good to throw other pieces in so you've got a variety. So this is a really beautiful black and clear rhinestone bracelet with a nice pinch clasp and a lovely little safety chain as well, so you don't lose it when you wear it. So that will be going on the Etsy shop. The lady wrapped these up all, you know, lovely in bubble wrap and tissue paper, which was great. She was really quick to get in touch as well and post everything, which was awesome. Now these are stunning. These would make a lovely gift for anybody that's musical. So these are treble clef earrings in sterling silver, and then they've got tiny marcassite stones in them as well, and one of the little stones was missing. However, that's not a problem because I have some spares at home, and I will just pop a new one in there and then you won't be able to tell. These have a little stamp on the back just here, just between where it loops over there. And usually, in my experience, anything that is set with these little marcassite stones does tend to be sterling silver. So that's just a little tip. Not always, but in most cases. This one isn't silver, but it's very, very sweet. It is a teeny, teeny, tiny little brooch of a leaf. And again, that's got marcassite in, but that is not sterling silver. And I could tell just from the look of it that it wasn't. You kind of develop an eye for this kind of thing over time. There is this necklace. So very, very dainty, very fine. It's got a nice pleated section at the front there. Not a lot of weight to it because there's not much silver content. However, here you have the clasp, and then you have one of those little links that I talked about earlier, and on there it says 925 and Italy. So that's how I knew that that was sterling silver. And then this final piece that I picked, I knew that it looked a little bit different, and I wasn't sure at first because it did look like stainless steel. So stainless steel has quite a high shine to it, but also more of a grey, a darker grey tone to it than real silver. And it was very hard to tell from the photographs. But this is absolutely stunning. Look at that. It's quite hard to see, but the outside is sterling silver, and then on the inside here is a cut-out pattern with all stars in a gold tone, and then there's little rhinestones set into it. It is on a sterling silver chain, and it does have the 925 just on that little section there of the clasp. And then, where else did I identify some writing? There was some writing somewhere else. I can't remember. I have done a Google Lens on this, and I can't find any information. I can't find the designer. It could be that it's a one-off. It could be that someone's made this on a jewellery course, or just made it for themselves, or as for a gift. But this part does test as sterling silver. So yeah, I was quite chuffed with that one. And then the final piece that I had was a free gift. So that's something that some Vinted sellers do. They'll throw little free gifts in. And she threw me this lovely bracelet in. Fortunately, it's not sterling silver. I did test it just in case, but it is still a nice panel bracelet all the same. So that'll be going in the Etsy shop. Now on to my final lot, which was the lot that I was most excited about. So I collected this morning and negotiated price with the seller. I went in with a lowball offer, and then she came up a little bit. So it's kind of in between, which is awesome. You've got to kind of have somewhere to start from. I never go so low that it's an insult. So, you know, if someone's selling something for 30 quid, I don't offer them a £5 or anything like that. But I do try and kind of bring it down a little bit, just so that, you know, for me, I'm going to be able to make a profit on it. Plus the seller's going to get what they want for it as well. So in this lot, there were 6 items, and it came to £33.54 altogether. So that was 6 items, postage and the protection fee. So each item comes to £5.59 each. Every single item is sterling silver. She listed it as sterling silver, and she highlighted where things were stamped on the images as well. So she knew what she was talking about, which was awesome. And I was happy to pay up when I know that something is what it is. When I'm unsure, I would rather get something a little bit cheaper, just in case, you know, it turns out not to be silver. That's the risk, really. So one of the items in here would pay for the whole lot and more. So I was really, really, really happy with this lot. Right, we'll start with the bracelet. So she popped everything in these little bags as well, which I can reuse, which is lovely. So this is a nice sterling silver, nice weight to it as well, solid sterling silver panel bracelet. And again, it's in that Renee Mackintosh style. So it has the rose in the centre there and kind of a boxed pattern. I'm just going to see if I can find where the mark is on this one. So it does have 925 on the little clasp. Sometimes the back of the panels are stamped, yes. So this one here, just near the loop, has some writing across the top there. I'll see if I can see what that says. So I can't remember if this is a Kit Heath as well. Ooh, this is slightly older than I thought it was. So I thought this might have been a Kit Heath or something from the 90s, like Elizabeth Duke. If you were a teenager in the 90s like me, Elizabeth Duke was in the Argos catalogue, and they did a lot of this kind of Renee Mackintosh style stuff. And that's what I thought this was. However, upon closer inspection, this is hallmarked. And if I kind of move that away a little bit, it's hallmarked for London, so it has the lion, and the initials are JJ, and then there are also 3 other little stamps as well. So I'll have to look that up because that's probably worth a little bit more than I originally thought it was, which is awesome. So that's the first item. This one was a present to myself because I absolutely love sterling silver. I wear it a lot, I work with it, I collect it. And if you know me, you'll know that I love anything ancient Egyptian. So I picked this out for myself. It's a little Egyptian ankh. So I have another necklace with an Egyptian pendant on, so I'll probably add this on. And this one has the hallmarks just on the bottom there, and I could see that in the photographs. Another thing you can do is, as well as kind of zooming in on photographs to see if you can see the marks or to see if you can see the tarnish, what I always do is I take a screenshot of the item and then crop it down so it just shows the item itself, and then I do a Google Lens search on it to see if I can find that item. Sometimes you'll find it and someone else will have listed it as silver, and that's a good indication that it is sterling silver. However, some things that were made, some jewellery items will have been made in sterling silver, and then another company might have copied them and made them in a cheaper material, so that's something to be aware of. This next one is a pendant, and again it's in that Renee Mackintosh style. It has the rose design there, and it's probably about the size of a 10p piece, and this has a little stamp just on the bottom. I am going to do what I usually do, and I'll do a slow pan round of all the items so you can have a nice close-up of everything. So I will pop that on a sterling silver chain. These earrings, again, are in the same style. I think I'm attracted to this kind of Renee Mackintosh. So these have they've got like a curved shape, and they've got a tiny slice of mother of pearl in the top in pink. So nice stud earrings, and these are signed just on the inside rim there. I'll have a quick look to see what these say. So these say, these are Kit Heath as well, so they've got the KH and then the 925 on, which is awesome. Some people collect Kit Heath, so it's a good item to purchase for resale. And then I'll save my favourite till last, which I think I've fallen in love with. These are amazing and a lot bigger than I thought they would be, and that's one of the things that is quite difficult on photographs on Vinted, is to tell what the size is. Now, someone who's an experienced seller will maybe put an item next to something like a pound coin so you can see the size difference, and some people will put a kind of size in the listing description as well, but some people don't put anything, so it can be quite difficult. But these beauties are hollow points, but they've still got quite a nice weight to them. They kind of swing lovely, and they're on sterling silver ear wires as well, which are quite thick. Now, these do not have any markings on them, so I suspect these are potentially an artisan handmade item, and yeah, they just haven't stamped them anywhere. Maybe they didn't want them to have a stamp because you can kind of see, you would be able to see it quite obviously. But they're in great condition, and I will test them with my acid kit. But just from looking and from feeling them, I can tell that they're sterling silver. One thing I would recommend is if you are unsure of something, so if you don't know what size it is and you want to know before you purchase, just message the seller. Lots of sellers are quite happy to get back in touch and give you more details, particularly if they think they're going to get a sale out of it as well. So, right, on to my final item, which is the thing that I spotted first, and I thought it was super cute, and I probably would have purchased it anyway, even if it wasn't sterling silver, because I haven't seen one of these before. And it is perfect for the witches market. However, oh, I really feel like I might keep it. I might keep it and wear it for a bit and then sell it. I don't know. So it is this little lucky Cornish pixie sat in a crescent moon. How cute is that? I think it is adorable. I'll try and hold it up against my hand. There we go. Little pixie sat with his knees up, with his arms around his knees. I think it's fantastic. The detail is awesome. And he's on a nice bar. And then you can see it's got an old style clasp on the back. And this has some numbers and letters on the back of the pixie. And then just on the bar section there are some letters and the word silver as well. Now, I looked this up and people have actually listed this as antique, so potentially older than I thought it was. With the initials, I should be able to look up the maker. There might be hallmarks on there, I'm not sure. However, these go for between kind of 45 and 60 pounds each. So really chuffed with that one. That would pay for literally everything that I've purchased so far. So that's everything. That's my sterling silver haul. Just to recap on some of the things to look out for. So online, look out for markings like 925, the word silver, the word sil, so S-I-L is short for silver. SS can be sterling silver, so that's another sign, or it could be somebody's initials. Hallmarks are always a good sign that something is either silver or another precious metal, because back in the day, you know, you had to get things hallmarked, just like you have to do today if it's over a certain weight, I believe. If something is overly shiny, over polished, doesn't have a stamp on the body of the item, but maybe just has a little tag or something hanging from the item that says 925, avoid, because I would say that's more likely to be plated, really, really cheaply plated, or completely fake. Negotiate, so always negotiate on price if you can, and if you are not sure whether something is silver, try and bring the price down so you know you're happy to take the risk if it's a little bit cheaper than you would usually pay. Poor craftsmanship, that can be another indication that something might not be silver, or it could be an indication that maybe it's something like a homemade piece or someone's first attempt at something, so that's something to keep an eye out for. If something is stamped Alpaca Mexico, it is not sterling silver. It is not silver at all. It may look like a dull silver tone, but it isn't silver, so don't be fooled. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and let me know down in the comments what were your favourite pieces, and if you collect any sterling silver, let me know. If you are interested in any of the pieces that come up on the videos, let me know. If I've listed them, I might be able to do you a discount. And also, if I haven't listed them, I might be able to sell them direct. And that way, I don't have the fees to pay and you can purchase it a little bit cheaper as well. So you can either get in touch with me by dropping me a comment below. In the description box, I always put my contact details, so you can find me on Facebook Messenger. I'm on Instagram. My email address is on there as well, so feel free to get in touch by email. As always, I shall catch you on the next one.